Welcome, I'm Jon Caldara, president of the Independence Institute and your devil's advocate. A little later in the program, Wayne Laugesen from the Gazette talks all things politics. But first, Mother of the Year and our good friend Susan Greene from the Colorado Independent. So glad to have you here.
Hello, my child.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, I want to talk. I want to talk about the jail because, you know, there's a good chance I'm going to end up there with Doug Bruce someday, and I want to know what's going on.
You want to talk, Frank?
I want to talk.
Okay.
I want to talk, Frank. So, we built this beautiful new Denver jail. And
beautiful.
It's beautiful, at least on the outside.
It's gorgeous.
Beautiful. In fact, there used to be a Rocky Mountain News there. You know, that's, you know, so Charlie Amel, that's his legacy is now, you know, a holding pen.
I spent a night there.
Just one?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
What were you in for? What'd you do?
Oh, it was a fundraiser. Yeah.
Keep going.
That's it.
That's it?
I had these cellmates. They worked at the Mint, and they had watched it being built, you know, for years. And then they paid to sleep in the jail, and they stayed up all night singing, "Nobody knows the trouble I've seen."
You have a pathetic little life.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Getting back to what I want to talk about. We built this beautiful new jail so that things would go better with the jail. And here it is in the heart of the city, and it's run by the Sheriff's Department. Am I right on that?
Yes.
It's not the police department, it's just Sheriff's Department. And since you were there for a whole night, and I think you were there for something different than a fundraiser, at least that's the word on the street, did you see any beatings?
While I was there?
Yeah, while you were there.
No, but I think 2 people while I was there had heart attacks or heart trouble and had to be rushed to the hospital, which might say something about the psychogeography of the jail.
I've just heard of that about a night with you.
Okay, so you digress. Nothing happened the night that I was there because it wasn't open yet for the people. For the people. Is that what we're calling them now?
Yeah. Not the criminals, but the people.
Yeah, it's a new jail, and it replaced the old jail because the old jail was like leaking and overcrowded. And this jail, not long after it opened, and by the way, it opened with cost overruns, which I'm sure
I am shocked.
You love cost overruns.
I love cost overruns.
It was the site of a very infamous death of a street preacher named Marvin Booker, who was the son of some civil rights leaders and a pretty great man.
How did he die?
He was killed by a posse of 5 sheriff's deputies in the booking room of the jail.
How?
There was a chokehold put on him. They tasered him. He was a man who was about my size. He was waiting to be booked. His shoes were off. They called his name. He got up and started walking to the booking area with his shoes off, maybe because he had been resting and was a little discombobulated. And there's a video. One of the sheriff's deputies called for him to go back and get his shoes, and I think he was turning around or may not have turned around as quickly as they would have liked. And there's a video, and all of your viewers can easily find it online, of 5 deputies surrounding him, piling on top of him, putting a carotid hold on him, tasering him, and his body went limp under this pile, and he died. And his family sued the city. Now, this is where you start caring about it. You probably don't care about the death part of it.
No,
really
I care about the money
so
part
much,
because I'm callous and shallow and only care about the numbers. So let's talk my language. So what did that cost me?
$6 million.
$6 million.
Well, it didn't cost you because you live in Boulder. And
no, I work in Denver, so I pay a head tax. So yes, I do, and I pay taxes here when I buy things. You know. $6 million. $6 million. $6 million. $6 million, and it also costs you, if you care about other capital besides dollars, it costs the Sheriff's Department a ton of credibility. It cost the Hancock administration, even though it happened under Hickenlooper, but Hancock kept defending the city year in and year out, which, by the way, adds up to more tax dollars. They're just uncounted from the city attorney's office and private attorneys. It cost them, you know, they spent years defending it, and in the meantime, all sorts of other cases were going on, excessive force cases. Denver, I reported recently, has paid out more in excessive force settlements and jury awards than Baltimore. Say that again, because that just blows my mind. So we've paid out more for mishandling prisoners than Baltimore? Baltimore.
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 Okay, Baltimore.
All right, so how, is this just one of those things that it's in the news because we're dialed into the frequency, or is this?
No.
This is a real issue.
I think the Hancock administration would like to say that, you know, oh, this is coming up because of Ferguson, or this is coming up because of Staten Island, or Baltimore. I, as you know, was at the Post for years. I wrote column after column after column about that sheriff's department booking the wrong people. They would book black people for white people, and living people for dead people, and a woman for a man.
So a lot of voting going on there. Exactly.
So that department has had systemic problems. And the thing about Denver, unlike other cities, is, you know, we don't have a citizenry that's super tuned in to excessive force or use of force, or really civil rights for that matter. I mean, it's not like an obsession.
I'm going to disagree with that. I mean, we are certainly dialed in, otherwise these stories wouldn't happen. And when you say we're not dialed into civil rights, I'm going to disagree with you on that as well. I'm not going to say there isn't a problem.
Wrestle?
I'll arm wrestle you. But there is a problem. It's being addressed, says the mayor, isn't it?
Well, funny you should ask. It was addressed in a report that just came out last week, and that report wasn't something that was, although the administration would like to purport that the report came out because of their own volition, it came out under an agreement it had in another civil rights case, the case of Jamal Hunter, who was beat up in the jail, actually at the arrangement of sheriff's personnel. And that case stinks of cover-ups and lies, as does Booker's case. But Hunter lived, Booker died. Hunter got $3.25 million in his civil rights suit. So now, you know, all told, those two cases together is $9.25 million, those two cases alone, okay? That report came out last week, and it's scathing. It found mismanagement. It found a lack of accountability. It found a lack of credibility, a lack of training. And it basically calls for a complete overhaul of the department. And very much is being embraced by critics of the department, but at the same time, there's a massive hole in the report, and that people say is race, because almost all of these victims of excessive force or mistaken identity or beatings in jail or mistreatment in jail are black and brown people.
What is the makeup of black and brown people in the jail? I mean, are you saying it's disproportionate, to the jail population?
Yes.
All right, so go ahead, and therefore you think what?
Well, I mean, there's clearly some racial problems if you look at the statistics here about who's being, number one, mistaken. Like, you know, one guy named Garcia for another guy named Garcia. You don't bother looking at the first name type of thing with mistaken identity. And, I mean, just basic power dynamics. So I think a lot of people would expect the city to rise up and address those problems, at least with training, and also especially a city under Mayor Hancock, who's the second black mayor of Denver.
Talk to me about the DA's race, because if this is going to be costing us more and more money with these settlements, these are civil suits, but aren't there also criminal elements here that our sheriff's department here, and it is a department, this is not an office, it's an outgrowth of the city. Mm-hmm. Yeah, which, unlike most other departments or offices around the state, you elect a sheriff. Here, right. It's just part of the police department. These are the guys who run the jail. They're the prison guards. Well, prison guards can commit crimes too, so I'm assuming these people are being prosecuted.
You would assume that, right?
And tell me I'm wrong?
They've not been prosecuted for this kind of on-duty excessive force killing, even though there have been many killings. I don't think anyone's been prosecuted since the early 90s. And interestingly,
and do you think this is a prosecutable offense? Do you think this? Do you think this was a crime, or do you think it was in the line of work they used too much force?
Marvin Booker's death was ruled a homicide by the coroner. Look at the videotape. You watch a bunch of men and women, deputies armed with tasers, with a carotid chokehold, kill a man, again, who's 135 pounds. So that was not justifiably, he presented no threat at all. I mean, you can see that black and white. I reported on a bunch of cases last year, videotape after videotape after videotape. They tasered a man who was suicidal and basically, you know, completely harmless. I mean, there are
Did they save his life by doing this? Is it that they were trying to stop something?
No,
I mean, I've seen the videos as well, and these videos are, they're horrifying when you see them, but we see them not in context,
right,
because they usually don't have audio.
Okay.
And these guys are trained in certain ways. Aren't they doing what they're trained to do?
Well, they're trained to keep things safe, but when, you know, a prisoner speaks out and says something kind of lippy to a sheriff's deputy and he runs over and, you know, clobbers him, that's way beyond the parameters of their job. And let me go back to your question about why haven't they been prosecuted. There's a memo in the DA's office, and it's the DAs who decide whether there should be, obviously, charges filed. And they base their investigation off of the police, the safety, the internal affairs investigation, their own department. So Denver's investigating itself, and the fruits of that investigation goes to the DAs, who makes a determination. Most other counties in Denver, almost all of them, I think except one, I mean in Colorado, the investigation is done by other jurisdictions. So it's an independent investigation. It's not the cops investigating themselves, okay? Number one, that's one problem with it. Number two, there's a 30-year-old memo in the DA's office that Mitch Morrissey, the current DA, and Bill Ritter before him used, that lays out the standards for what the legal standards need to be to file charges. And those are, number one, 30 years old, and they basically require a totally bulletproof case, like a case in which, you know, you could be deaf and blind, and I mean, you know, it's so obvious.
You could be as stupid as me and it'd still be there.
Right,
Right,
and wait, there is a standard here in the law called affirmative defense. So
right,
cops get off all the time because they say, well, I was protecting myself, right? Or I was protecting the public. And they think the juries will always believe that. And obviously, you know, everybody kind of expected that to happen in Baltimore, but no, the DA stood up and said, you know, indicted. I mean, they indicted. There are cities that are moving the needle here and actually starting to hold killer cops accountable, and not Denver.
DA's race.
DA's race.
Is there one person here that is addressing this more than others, or want to?
Absolutely not. I mean, you've got 3 candidates. One is Bill Ritter's nephew. 2 others come out of the DA's office. All of them come out of that culture, and they're addressing differences in communication and messaging, and not that much in terms of substance.
As far as real reform, getting outside prosecutors to investigate would be one easy one. The other one I put out is to change our chief of police to have it in an elected position. Instead of answering to the mayor, do what we do with sheriffs all over the state and have that person directly elected. My guess is that changes a lot.
It might. I mean, in the sheriff's department, it would be the sheriff, not the chief of police. But I think that's a good, interesting
And if you want to read more, coloradoindependent.com. By the way, nice pearls. Very, very classy of you. Stay tuned.